America needs a tidal wave of the old-time religion.
I have sinned against you.
How dare you!
We have no need to doubt God.
The harlot Babylon is preparing the nations to receive the Antichrist.
I didn't even build that house with money from the church. I built it with money from my book.
I don't make this stuff up.
Repenting of your sin.
It is a moral issue.
They got together and swore a pact to the devil.
I just enjoy seeing people worship, praising God.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to
Believe It
or Did We?
The show where we don't or did
or didn't believe it or not. I guess the real name.
Yeah, we know what it is. You know what it is, and if you don't know, well, I guess now you do. So, or maybe you don't. I guess
if you don't know, then eat it.
Back to like clarifying the confusion. This is Believe It or Not, the show where we talk about things, and sometimes we believe, sometimes we don't.
Yeah. And today, it's a strong, not on my watch.
Oh, yeah? It's going to be one of those ones today.
One of those ones today.
I feel like most are that way.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. It's one of those anger-inducing ones, I would think.
Oh, no.
A little bit of how dare you, as Greta Thunberg would say.
Yeah, like
or Mark Driscoll.
Like pineapple on pizza.
I love pineapple on pizza. It's so good.
I actually don't know if I've ever had it.
Oh, it's just so good. It's not my go-to, but when I'm feeling it, oh yeah.
For me, it's less the pineapple that bothers me, and I don't like ham.
Oh, okay. No, I love me a good ham.
If it was bacon, I'd be fine, but I'm not big on ham.
How do you feel about Canadian pizza?
That's mushrooms and bacon, right?
Mushroom, bacon, and pepperoni. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not big on mushrooms either. So.
All right. Yeah. I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, let's say in the comments, American listeners, how do you feel about pineapple on pizza? You guys never mentioned whether or not you like it.
Yeah,
JK, everybody
we're
talks
asking
about how much they hate it.
The important questions here.
And what about, do they have Canadian style pizza in America, or is that just in Canada? Let us know.
We'll find out. Also, who determined that was Canadian style?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Why
actually, when I was growing up, so I grew up in a little town called Brockville, Ontario. At the Pizza Hut, they called it Brockville style.
Oh.
And I don't know if that was them just trying to be cute.
Probably. I feel like it was probably the manager there being like, oh, people will love Brockville style pizza.
Yeah.
At the Pizza Hut.
Yeah. So I'm going to Google that, where it came from. But meanwhile, you know who else loves pizzas? Teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good segue.
They've been noted to like pizza.
Especially if they're turtles. Yeah.
Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's a good segue. We're going to talk today about a thing called Teen Mania. Have you heard of Teen Mania?
Teen Mania? I feel like this could go in numerous bad ways. So I don't know if I should respond.
Well, it was a ministry, quote unquote. I'm going to put that quotes out there.
Well, mania implies like a hyper excessive kind of state, right?
Yeah.
Like over the top. Some might say unstable state. So this is about unstable teenagers. Isn't that just teenagers?
Yeah. Well, when I Googled it, when I was doing research, there were a lot of sites about teenagers who are suffering with bipolar disorder and stuff. So you had to sift through it. But it was an organization started in 1986, went till 2015. Started by a guy named Ron Luce, Luce is how you spell his name, and his wife Katie. He stayed in it longer than she did, it looks like. And then it was also one of the main branches was run by a guy named David Haas. And they were kind of like partners in, I was going to say partners in crime, but kind of literally. But yeah, it started out as they would drive around doing these things called beach bashes. So Ron and Katie would hold these youth rallies to try to like get kids excited about the Lord and get them all, converted to Christianity. And these started to grow and grow
at the beach.
And then they started to do,
a bummer. You're going for a swim with your friends, and then just all like these middle-aged people just start talking about Jesus at you the whole time.
Yeah, that would be a bummer. Have you ever had that where you're like just trying to enjoy something, and then like the street preachers come along and you just have to move where you are?
Yeah.
It's the worst. But yeah, so eventually it became this thing called Acquire the Fire.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Okay, you have.
I've heard of Acquire the Fire. Yes.
And yeah, Acquire the Fire was pretty big. And they would just tour every year. They would have Christian rock bands come out and they would do these big rallies, this usually like a 72-hour, 48-hour youth conference where it's just this intense like cry for, change in the world. You can do it. You can change the world. That's what they were most famous for, probably, was the Acquire the Fire rallies. But basically, I've never actually been to Acquire the Fire. I've been to a lot of youth conferences in my day, but for whatever reason, I just missed Acquire the Fire. But I remember so many people that I knew just like talking about how much of like a life-changing experience it was. But it wasn't the only thing they did. They also had something called the Honor Academy. And the Honor Academy was their internship program or their like school program where like it was supposed to be this like life-changing event. It helped you. It was like a year-long to 2-year-long thing if you decided to take the second year, but that was more for music students for the second year. But it was like usually a 1-year program, and it was supposed to like help you to find your purpose in life and God's plan for your life.
Right. So these both seem like things that are exploiting these experiences of people to try and solidify their beliefs that they already have some form of. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like really targeting like already Christian kids or people who grew up in Christian homes.
This is definitely not converting anyone. No. It's just fanaticizing the ones who are already in it.
Yeah, exactly. And they also had their global expeditions, which were mission trips, like short-term mission trips. Yeah. And they had their week-long camps called extreme camps. And these were like paintballing, extreme sports, things like that for teenagers to come out and have this week-long summer camp.
Well, again, that's how they get you, right? They hide all the bullshit with like fun things that kids will want to do. It's what the church has always done with like community and having that kind of camaraderie and experience and that sense of belonging. Just now, instead of having a group where everyone can go and chat and hang out, it's a group where you can go play paintballs with your pals.
Yeah, exactly. But at Acquire the Fire, so like I said, there were these big rallies. They were marketed as like world changers and trying to get you to become part of this world changing team. And they would have these interns or volunteers there that were selling all their merchandise and were trying to recruit you to do the mission trip and to do the Honor Academy. First, they're trying to recruit you to go on their mission trips. Their global expeditions is what they called them. Okay. So they're really trying to like pressure you and inspire you to get on these global expeditions.
Right.
But if you want to do the Honor Academy, the 1-year internship, you have to have first done the global expedition. So you go to Acquire Fire, and then you sign up for the global expedition. If you're successful in your missions trip, then you are allowed to apply to the academy.
How do they determine success in a missions trip?
Well, so one person said that like they had to do these stupid dramas, like these pantomime things. I don't know if you've ever seen the church pantomimes. They're so bad.
No, I don't think I have actually. But I can imagine it's like bad community theater.
Oh yeah, like that. It's that SNL sketch, that reoccurring sketch where they're like they move the boxes around and they try to be thought provoking. But a lot of it was just to like a Carmen song or like some Christian rock song. And they're, they get out there and they have to do this dance. But this person was saying that they were so strict on how perfect you had to be doing this dance that they would do like 15-hour a days of like straight just training and like bullying if you screwed up and just like a lot of shame involved.
And this is all volunteer work too, right?
You paid, like you had to pay a lot of money.
Oh, you pay to do it.
Yeah, you pay to do this. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not even really volunteer. Well, no. I mean, I guess there's a lot of volunteer that you pay.
Yeah, the mission trips were very just like they took a lot of energy and they were just really hard on you and they were very strict with the rules. And basically, if you broke any of the rules, the biggest one, though, was dating somebody else who was on the team. So these are all teenagers. And if they were caught showing interest, basically, in somebody else on the team, they were sent home from no matter where they were in the world. They were like sent home immediately. So, but especially like if you kiss somebody or like hold hands with somebody while you're on this trip, you're sent home immediately. So that's one way that you would be disqualified for the Honor Academy. And yeah, basically like any infraction or disqualified. And they would like pray over all the applications for the Honor Academy as well, apparently. And then like they chose just a certain amount based on what the Lord was telling them, who the Lord was telling them.
Right. Okay. So they're exploiting teenagers. They're punishing them for behaving like teenagers.
Yeah.
And then they're making arbitrary decisions based on nothing, on who actually gets to go through after these children have been working so hard to do this stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, this seems like a real winner organization.
Yeah.
A+.
Yeah, so they really sell it, and then they put you through this thing, and then they make you feel special for being chosen if you're chosen. So if you get accepted into the Honor Academy, what they would do is you would go there, you would pay usually about $600 to $800 a month. So usually over $8,000 a year, but you're also encouraged to pay more if you can. And apparently they all went as donation. So everything counted as donation. So they wouldn't offer you any sort of receipt or anything like that to prove that you paid for schooling. So nothing would count for your taxes, for any student loans or anything.
Do not donations count for tax purposes?
Yeah, but they wouldn't even like give them receipts or acknowledge like how much they would donate. It was very secretive. But if you missed any payments or didn't pay as much as they thought you should each month, then you would be sent home.
Well, I mean, the churches have always been so great with the tax system.
Yes.
I was reading an article recently about the Mormon church and how they made a ton of money on, I think it was on the GameStop stocks, and then they doubled down and bought more Tesla stocks, and they pay no taxes on any of that.
Yep.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, it's true. And like there was something with the Mormons too, where their charity budgets, a lot of it was just going into a savings account, and none of it was was actually given to charity.
It is crazy.
Yeah. And so then so what you do is then if you got in, they would have the first week and it changed per year. They did this for 20 years or so, so it did change a little bit, fluctuate how each year was kind of ran, but usually on average this is how a typical year would go. But you get there, they have something called the Gauntlet. So that's a week-long, 3-day week-long thing where they put you through a bunch of physical tests and a bunch of challenges, group challenges, and all this stuff to determine what your ministry will be while you're there, or what your job will be while you're there. Most people get put into I don't even know what they call it, but it's a call center.
Okay.
Most of them, so they're paying to recruit churches. Into like signing up for these missions trips. So they have quotas like you do with a call center. Yeah. They have like metrics they have to hit like you do with a call center. And these are 8 hours a day that they have to
8 hours a day. Are you serious?
Plus they had to take a certain amount of classes. Plus there was like other activities that you were expected to do an hour of Bible reading every day. Yeah, and then like the one person, actually a blogger from Toronto, I was reading about, she went down to Texas for this. And this was all in Garden Valley, Texas, I think it was the name of it. And so it's very secluded. There's no like Valley stores Ranch around. Yeah. And so it's like you're very closed in. And the one person was saying she was assigned kitchen duty, which she called the Island of Misfit Toys, because that's where like all the socially awkward people who they didn't think would be good on the phones would be put in the kitchen. But they had to prepare breakfast every morning. The rule was you had to be up do an hour of Bible reading first thing in the morning. But she also had to serve breakfast at 5:30 in the morning. So
breakfast at 5:30?
Or she would have to start cooking breakfast at 5:30 in the morning, and then for them to be up at 7 or whatever.
So she'd have to get up at 4 in the morning in order to do this shit.
Yeah. And then they had activities all day and like things she had to do all day. So she wouldn't get to bed until usually like 10 o'clock at night. And that's when everybody's coming back from their call center shifts and everybody's talking, and they don't have to work till like later in the day tomorrow. So they're all talking all night. So she's getting like 4 hours of sleep.
Right. So
every night.
This is a youth work camp, basically. Yeah. Like and let's give kids the worst jobs possible that people hate doing, but not make them pay us.
Yeah. Like I work in a call center.
Man, what a racket.
Yeah. Like if I would not pay to do the job I have.
Fuck no. Nobody would.
Like, no.
Nobody's under any impression that people want to work in a call center. Yeah. People work there because they have to and because they get paid to do it.
Exactly.
Nobody's volunteering their time to do that.
No.
I mean, I guess they're probably people are like, oh, what about like people who call for like politicians and stuff? Well, fuck off. That's
yeah, exactly. And they also did a ring ceremony where they would go through a few days of like, again, physical and emotional tests and stuff like that. And then they're given this ring to show that they're honorable, because the whole thing is about honor and showing honor. But you would have to like swear to uphold their like rules and swear that you're going to be there for the next year. And if you break any of the rules within your lifetime, you're expected to bring this ring back to them.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be like you only wear this ring when you're under contract, and if you break any of the rules, and so, but the rules were things like, again, you're not allowed to date, you're not allowed to
ever
while you're there, you're not allowed to date.
Okay.
But things like if you had to have accountability partners after the ring ceremony, and that meant that if you sinned, you had to go and tell them. If it's a serious violation, they have to go and tell on you, and you have to tell them if you thought about sinning, if you even had an inclination.
This is another thing I hate about this. It's the fucking thought police, and they're trying to get children to police themselves, so that way these people in authority can keep their power. Yeah, it's nuts. I don't know how you can be a part of this system and think that this is okay.
Yeah, no, it's very much like, these are kids, they're straight out of high school. Yeah. This is like usually in their gap year, and they're just being manipulated and put through these emotional things, lack of sleep. MSNBC did a really good documentary on this called Mind Over Mania, and they talked about a lot of their practice that they did, and a lot of people credit them with eventually bringing down the organization.
Oh, good. I should check that out.
And I watched it today, and it's heartbreaking. So they talked about a lot of the different things that they would do. Like, they had one thing where they would wake everybody up in the morning, put blindfolds on them, drive them for 7 hours, break them up into groups of 6, and then just drop them off with a big wooden cross. They had to get home in the next 20 hours from where they were, and they weren't allowed to use phones or watches or maps, and they just had to figure it out. And this was supposed to be like an exercise of like God giving you direction in life or whatever, and finding God's purpose for your life. And it's supposed to be like this big lesson.
There's no lesson there. The lesson is that you're in an organization of nut jobs and assholes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they would do, all this stuff. And they started doing something in, I think, 99, but they started doing this thing, and they did it till this documentary came out, called ESOAL, which stood for Emotionally Stretching Opportunity of a Lifetime.
So they're making, I'm extrapolating that they're turning these horrible experiences and making them seem like they're learning opportunities for these kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Another thing I didn't mention, I'll get into ESOL in a sec, but they'd also, one of the things they said was, you always have to be fasting something. You always have to be giving up something. And they had required 1 day a week of like no eating.
What?
Yeah, they had Thursdays were fasting days, so you weren't supposed to eat on Thursdays.
Okay, so you work these kids constantly. You don't pay them. You barely let them sleep. You put them through horrendous psychological and physical trauma every day, and then you make them not eat 1 day a week.
And then even when they did eat, like I was reading reviews of people who went there, and there was never any fresh vegetables. There was never any fruit. It was always just like frozen meals and like just very low grade, cheap food.
This is. Well, I guess they weren't. You said they're out of high school, so they're probably like 17, 18-year-olds?
Yeah, sometimes as young as 16, because some of them would be like homeschool kids that graduated early and stuff. And like the limit was 23. You can go if you were over 23, but yeah.
I guess that's how they avoided the child abuse claims, because they're technically adults.
Yeah, and like, so ESOL, it was a volunteer weekend thing or 3-day thing, sometimes longer, depending on the year. It was volunteer, but it was very high social pressure for everybody to join. Like, you were really, really shamed if you didn't sign up for it. And even the founder would always talk about good peer pressure. and pressuring people into doing good things. And so the whole culture was about shaming and about making sure that people are following what you're supposed to be doing. And so what they would do is they would get you in the morning, they would get you up and bring you to the back field, and they had mud pits that they would dig. There was like a well you had to like climb down into and climb through, and these giant obstacle courses. They would make you eat things that would make you throw up or feel like you're going to throw up, and then immediately make you roll down a hill. Or they would do things like you have to climb through mud while eating beans out of a diaper. Just weird. Like, and they were trying to do like a boot camp thing, and the whole lesson was that life can get you down and you can never give up on the Lord. So if you were struggling and doing a thing, they would just stand there shaming you. And there's video of all this too. They would just stand there shaming you and yelling at you, saying that you're weak if you give up, that you're better than this, you're better than your body. And that the whole thing too was that you want your body to be your slave. You don't want to be a slave to your body, so you have to overcome these pains. And
what the fuck?
Yeah. And they had a bell, and if you rang that bell, then you could quit, but then you were also publicly shamed at the same time. So if people quit, everybody would just start yelling at them, or the leaders would just start yelling at them, and then they could go back to the dorm. But if you finished the thing, you got a few days off to recover. If you quit, you had to do your job the next day.
Why would anyone want to do this ever?
Yeah. And in this first couple of years anyway, like they were sworn to secrecy about this thing because they wanted it to be a surprise for next year's people. So that,
I mean, I get why, like you're in it. So, and by the time you get to that point, you're already so entrenched in everything. Of course, it seems like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then the peer pressure. But I mean, it's crazy that this is that people thought this is okay.
Yeah. It was disgusting. And they just didn't come out for years because Acquire the Fire was so popular. And then there was shame in telling people if you had a bad experience. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing about that documentary too was that they would interview people. They interviewed this group of women who went there 10 years prior or more, and just how they were struggling with PTSD and stress. And like one person was like talking about how she like mourns for who she used to be because this experience took that away from her. Like it took her hope basically. And she just like went into like this depression afterwards. Mm-hmm. And then they would cut to people who are in it just being so happy and excited about all the stuff that they're doing and talking about how it's valuable. You were mandated. That was part of the pressure too, is to always act happy. You are not allowed to not act happy. And so if you're ever down or sad, that's not allowed. Like you are not allowed to show that emotion. You have to be happy all the time. And so
that's so not healthy. And it's just like, how is this teaching you that, like, I mean, if anything, this is not going to teach me that the Lord is strong and that I am strong. It's going to teach me that these people are abusive and manipulative. Yeah. And I don't think a strong God would want to do this to me or want this for me or for anybody really.
Yeah, exactly. And the one person in the documentary too, her mom came, and it's the same person, but her mom came to visit her like halfway through the year. Mm-hmm. And just looked at her and was like, you are not healthy. And took her to a doctor, and the doctor was like, yeah, you can't be there anymore. So she went home, and she like luckily got out of it before other people. But they were just stuck there emotionally, and they were stuck there because they were made to feel like you're a failure if you quit. Mm-hmm. And so it all started tearing down when this woman named Micah, what was her last name? Micah Mania, I want to say. She started blogging about her experience. She went to a conference on cults and realized that, oh shit, this was a cult. It follows like all the cult things. And she finally clicked why it had such a negative impact on her life.
Yeah.
And so she started blogging about it, and people started coming out and talking about it and talking about their experience with it. And Micah Marley. And then that's when MSNBC took up the mantle and like did this documentary. And I think a local news source in Texas maybe did it first, but ran a story on them. And then over time, more and more people came out about like just the emotional abuse and the physical abuse and the shame and everything they felt going to this thing. It went from thousands of people a year who were in this program to like 100 people would maybe apply.
You know what's really funny about something like this is something that would have been totally authorized by churches and community groups who thought this was such an amazing opportunity and a great thing. Yet these are going to be the same people now who will be like QAnon supporters and being like, oh no, there's a child abuse and sex ring and this is bad because of this. It's like, well, no, communities and things that you support are the actual problem here, not this made up shit that you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like that whole Matt Gaetz thing where like it's these same people who are trying to uncover secret human trafficking thing when like one of their people is human trafficking.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
But and the other thing about Acquire the Fire is all those volunteers, most of them they barely got any sleep. So they had to be at this thing for 48 hours, sometimes like sleeping just on the cement of a gym or whatever, or like just for like a little while, obviously no pay and barely any food. And they just have to sell it. Like they're constantly having to sell that Honor Academy and these global things are just the best thing ever and get more teens in. And it was just this awful cycle.
Well, that's part of what keeps them in it too, is by keeping them tired and keeping them hungry. Like those things do a lot to your mind.
They really do. Yeah.
That's how they control you more.
So in 2014, they canceled 2015, they canceled the Honor Academy because they just didn't have enough interest. And then they filed for bankruptcy and ended. He said, Robert Luce said, it's not necessarily a bad thing. There are plenty of Christian organizations that become institutions. They're dead and dry and they're old wineskins. We didn't want to become that. Teen Mania has completed this assignment. So,
are you serious?
Yeah.
They tried in it like they closed it down because they wanted to?
Yeah.
What a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah. And then, so he got sued. They had a sponsor for all the Acquire the Fire events that year. It was Compassion International was sponsoring it.
Yeah.
So that they would get more people to sign up for Compassion International.
Mm-hmm.
But they took the money from that, but never gave it back to them after they canceled the Acquire the Fire.
Fuck this guy. What's his name again?
Robert Luce. And he's trying to come back. He's trying to start a new thing recently.
Robert, if you're listening, fuck you.
Yeah, you can go
You're
fuck
a piece
yourself.
of shit.
Yeah.
You garbage human being.
Yeah. And
I hope you get I don't know, planner's warts.
Well, the thing is too, like if I searched his name, it's all positive stories on YouTube. Like it's all like he's on 700 Club and he's doing speaking things at churches about how to reach teens and like.
I mean, for me, this is all negative, but I understand. I understand what you're saying. Like none of this stuff is making me like, oh, this is a good guy.
Yeah, no, nothing at all.
No, I just think more Christian propaganda, irrational people. Okay. Yeah.
So he gets sued by Compassion International, doesn't show up to his court date, and gets a warrant out for his arrest. Like he's just a garbage person.
Was he arrested?
He I don't know if he actually ended up getting arrested, but there was a warrant out for a while. It was probably something where.
Well, let's hope he does something stupid and does end up in jail.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. And
he probably won't, but
probably not. Yeah. I had a warrant out for my arrest once for a very similar thing. And
really?
I didn't. Yeah. So I jumped in Calgary. They have the C-train platforms. I hopped off the platform. There was a cop standing there. I got a ticket and I get home and I lose my ticket. So I kept like thinking like, oh, I should find out when that court date is. And I just kept forgetting to check when the court date was. And then eventually I had to get a background check for a job. And I had to go to the police station and get that background check. So I was like, okay, no problem. Do. It's been like 2 years and I completely pushed this thing out of my head and I get arrested.
Wow. They threw the book at you too.
They threw the book at me. Well, the thing is, it should have taken like I should have been in and out in 20 minutes. Like if I would have just paid the fine. But when I was in there, the guy in the cell. So I was just sitting on the bench outside the cell. They didn't actually put me in the cell, but I'm still like right beside the cell.
You're like at the teacher's office, like
exactly.
Principals.
Yeah. But the guy in the cell says he has his newborn child at home and they're alone, so they need to let him go so he can go to get his newborn child. And so,
oh no.
So this means that this is their priority number one, is to making sure this newborn, who ends up not existing, this is just his excuse.
I wouldn't think it.
Yeah.
As soon as you said that, I'm like, that's not real.
Yeah, but that became priority number one. So then I ended up, and this was on my way to work too. And I was 4 hours late for work. And they're like, what happened? I was like, I got arrested.
Did you lose that job?
I didn't. I quit a couple months later, but I didn't lose the job.
Well, you said you were getting a background check was that for a different job?
It was for a different job, but it was for a part-time church job. So,
part-time church job.
Yeah.
The church wanted background checks. Very interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought they were supposed to be the forgiving ones, to bring in your weak, your poor, and your disenfranchised to help out those people who need it most. I guess if you have a criminal background, fuck you.
Yeah. No, I'm glad people who work with kids have to have a background check, but...
Sorry, if you have a convicted criminal background.
Yeah, it's true.
There's enough criminals in the church already, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But, so any other thoughts on Teen Mania?
I think they really did a bad job, and they're bad people, and I'm sorry that people had to go through that, and that they were hoodwinked and swindled by these con men and cultists.
Yeah.
Well, they're exploiting youth.
Yeah. But speaking of exploiting people, let's thank our patrons.
We're going to take them for all they got.
That was a good segue.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Wow! Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, welcome back to the Bible study. Just have a couple quick prayer requests today. We won't keep you long, but so we just have a really quick prayer request for Jason. Jason is nice guy. We all love Jason, but it's come to our attention that he's just too good looking. Yeah.
Listen, I mean, this affects everybody here, and everyone's just getting so anxious. I mean, when you're just that dang handsome, it makes everybody uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
And, we feel like we can't measure up, we can't do anything, and it's just really hard for everybody. So if you could tone it back a little bit, or maybe like wear some funny glasses or like a fake nose or something.
Yeah, and it's that kind of good looking where when you're talking to him, you don't even know what to do with your hands. You just feel awkward, and you're like, you just don't know what to do because you've never been in contact with somebody that good looking.
Yeah.
And so, so lift him up in prayer. Hopefully he changes his ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually have a prayer for our friend Timothy. Timothy's been saving all of his fruit snacks at lunch, and he's been selling them to his classmates. And listen, we love an entrepreneur, but listen, those lunches were made by your mom with love, and there's only one person it's supposed to go to, and that's you, brother.
Amen. Yeah. As much as we love capitalism and like you said,
and we do.
Yeah. But you gotta, those are your mom, man.
Yeah. And listen, the only time that you're allowed to take something from your parents is if it's $1 million+, and then you can take it and build your empire on your own hard work, right?
Yeah, that's when you can build yourself up from your bootstraps.
Exactly.
Not with your fruit snacks.
That's right. So just think about that, Timothy. Okay.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, thank you guys so much, and we do really, really appreciate. It's just so heartwarming, and so thank you so much. And Damien, should we do a Christian rock lyric?
I think we should. I wanna rock out with my cross out.
Can't you see you're not making Christianity better? You're just making rock and roll worse.
This song's by our good friend Toby Mac. From DC Talk, Toby Mac on the DC track That's Back, Beyond Comprehension. I believe that if I do mention that, there's lack of recognition. That's not the song we're doing, but I just wanted to show.
Is that his name, or is that?
His name's Toby Mac.
No, like his full name is that whole rap.
Yeah, that's his whole name. But also Kevin Max from DC Talk.
Toby Mac and Kevin Max.
Yeah. Well, he went by Kevin Smith at the time, but then.
Oh, then there's that other guy who's not like him.
But he said recently that he's evangelical now, so I don't know what that means. I retweeted it, but I don't know if that means he doesn't believe in God anymore, or
if he's just not an evangelical.
Because I refer to myself as evangelical quite a bit, because I think that helps me identify my past pretty well. But so I think that's an interesting development. So we'll see how that goes. But this is Toby Mac.
You got to stop living in the past and start living in the future. So
no, man, I'm fully in the past.
Oh, okay, well that's cool too.
But speaking of being broken and being broken down and keeping on despite our body telling us to maybe take a break.
Yeah. Block out the pain. Watch your body grow. That's Scott Steiner. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. This is a song called Move, Keep Walking. Let's start in the middle. Too many passing dreams roll by like limousines. It's hard to keep believing when they pass you by and by. I know your heart been broke again. I know your prayers ain't been answered yet. I know you're feeling like you got nothing left. Well, lift your head. It ain't over yet. So keep walking, soldier. Keep moving on. Keep walking until the morning comes. I forgot to mention that. That's another reason I chose that song. They used a lot of war metaphors in Teen Mania.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of, they had battlecry.com was what they were trying to do as their Christian social media. And with the tagline, MySpace, and less MySpace and more his space.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But so a lot of war metaphors and stuff like that, and a lot of like, whatever's happening, you just got to keep fighting and keep moving.
Yeah. My favorite part about this song is how they acknowledge that their prayers aren't being answered and nothing is happening.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, so we all know that nothing is being accomplished through prayer or any of this worship, but we got to keep moving with it, I guess.
You're telling me that you've been whispering to the sky and it's done nothing?
This feels like the sunk cost principle or whatever that is.
Yes, the sunk cost fallacy. Yeah,
that's what this kind of feels like. Like, well, I've been believing my whole life. I can't stop believing now. I put so much into it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I'll look like a goddamn fool if I
look
stop.
Like an idiot. Yeah, I've been calling her Mrs. Crandall. Yeah. Well, that was Teen Mania. That was Toby Mac. That was thanking our patrons who are awesome. And that's been Trevor and Damien.
Thanks again for showing up and listening to us. And for all you do for us, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And if you need to not keep moving on for a day and just take a break, that's cool too. Take a break once in a while.
Do what you got to do. The only one who can tell you what you need to do is you.
Yeah.
And, I guess the police, if you're breaking the law.
If you're breaking the law.
Or your mom or dad if you're, a little kid or something. Yeah.
But
or your boss if you're at work.
All right, thanks everybody. You're the best.
Bye.
Bye.
Work, Sky Moon.
All right, let's get this party started.
Yeah.